Hi, if you are interested in storytelling, meaning if you like to be not read to, what I'm trying to say is some people love to read out loud, and some people like to read privately. However, Maureen Callahan's book, Ask Not, and the Kennedys and the Women They Destroyed has been read on the internet. And I am reading this for Betty, aka You Know Who You Are. Okay, so this is Kennedy's Ask Not, the Kennedys and the Women They Destroyed. And this is the first page of Maureen Callahan's book and what she says. They were careless people. They smashed up things and creatures and then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness or whatever it was that kept them together and let other people clean up the mess they had made. F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby. So we're going to start off with chapter 1. Icons. Everybody's interested in icons. Carolyn Bassett. The minute she said yes, she regretted it. Carolyn could say that about so much of her life recently, but nothing felt quite like this. She was going against her gut, trying to keep her husband happy, really trying to keep up appearances. Their marriage, its most tenuous, by agreeing to fly with him in the small plane he was still learning to pilot to a Kennedy wedding on the Cape. His flying was a point of pride for him and fear for her. Carolyn says, quote, "I don't trust him." Carolyn said this to family members, friends, the waitress at their favorite restaurant in Martha's Vineyard. She didn't think her husband had the patience, the diligence, the attention span, really the humility to be a good pilot, to know when he shouldn't get in the air. He was still a student, but he had so much hubris. He didn't take his training seriously. He hadn't banked nearly the hours in the air, in daylight and at night, to pilot alone. He would break the rules, sneak into Snolo? He snuck into Snolo. He snuck into solo flights, astonished by him or threatened to take away his training certificate. Nope. It was just John being a Kennedy, a rogue and a rebel like his father, risk in his blood. To Flight Safety Academy, the bravest in aviation, John wrote to his instructors, "Because people will not only care when I get my training, they'll only care if I crash." John thought it was funny. Carolyn did not. John, unlike Carolyn, thought there was no way he'd ever have an accident. Well, just like I thought that about my scooter. Even though he'd had a cast on his ankle for the past 6 weeks, having broken it in a crash landing, a contraption called the flying lawnmower. He'd needed surgery on that ankle. John's doctor had just removed the cast the day before. And even though John needed a cane to walk and would need months of physical therapy, he swore the doctor had cleared him to fly. Bullshit. Now, before I read the rest, let's just really, really think about the words on the first page. Carolyn didn't trust him. The flight trainers, the pilot training, he didn't put in enough hours for daylight or nighttime, yet he wanted to fly to Martha's Vineyard or to the Cape for a Kennedy wedding. Okay, so what does he do? The doctor takes off his cast. He's taking Vicodin, which is the equivalent of, I think, hydromorphone in Canada, I think. So he was high, not high. Usually if you take medication and you're in pain, it just takes away the pain and makes you sleepy. And he just decides, okay, let's go, girls. Come on, we don't want to be late. What an idiot. That is so unintelligible. That is the most illogical decision John F. Kennedy made, aside from the fact that he almost killed his other girlfriend in a kayak. Carolyn couldn't fully blame him. No one said no to John F. K. Kennedy Jr., heir to Camelot, the only living son of the beloved slain president, with movie star looks and charm to match. America's prince. The media called him, and whatever John wanted to do something, to become a lawyer, start a magazine, hell, run for president, do something, to become a lawyer, start a magazine. Sure, yes, of course, Mr. Kennedy. And you know what? Let's start you at the top of the field. Sometimes Carolyn would say no to John just to say no, to habituate him to real life. It always stunned him. Of course it always stunned him. He was a spoiled brat. When they first started dating seriously, after he had ghosted Carolyn, the formally accommodating, easygoing Carolyn, a few years before, she recalibrated. She suddenly wasn't so available. She wasn't so interested of his lateness, forgetfulness, entitlement. She was forcing him to realize that other people were important too. She stood up to him once. This was before everyone had cell phones. No way for her to reach John F. Kennedy Jr. as she sat in a darkening Broadway theater, all eyes on him, and the empty seat next to him, to say she had to work late. Carolyn expected John to be furious with her, but it only made him want her more. Because, I'm stopping here, this is my take, men like the chase. And then when they get what they want, they always think the grass is greener on the other side, and women as well. Her book is really for the women and against the men. However, when I recap, I will explain to you the different perspectives of all family members, because Maureen's narrative in this book is men bad, women good. Men bad, women good. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Betty, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will read another 10 minutes tomorrow. Okay? That's a wrap.